I'm Billy. I'm the lead grower at Stepney City Farm. I run the traineeship, the horticulture and growing traineeship here. I also run the volunteer groups, and we do a lot of the food growing here, and then we sell to restaurants and to the cafe. We try and follow some of the permaculture techniques here. So we're using a lot of the earth care, people care and fair share. Through the winter we have the polytunnels, so we grow like mustard greens. We grow, we've got chard and kale all through the winter. We have onions, we have potatoes. We try to create as big a diversity of produce as we can at such a small scale, but we want to be as diverse as possible so that we are more resilient to like pests and bugs, so then we don't have to use any pesticides or herbicides. So that's the kind of the link that we're trying to do here. We're just trying to use as many permaculture practices as possible, because you have a whole range of some farms, they've been going for 20 years and they've been doing permaculture practices, and of course it looks amazing because they haven't dug for like 20 years and they've just been adding lots of compost, and their forest gardens are well established. But you only have to just try to do the permaculture practices that you can at the time, and it still needs to be sort of economically viable. And I mean, we're a charity, so we rely on like funding to support educational workshops, but at the same time we're trying to make sure that this land is profitable as well, because at the end of the day, if you want to take the same system and go and create that somewhere else, that system needs to be able to be, needs to make you money to be able to live off as well. On the farm we have sort of some opportunities to collaborate with different organisations. So what we've been doing recently is collaborating with a couple that have just started their small business, which is making kimchi. Because we don't use any pesticides or herbicides, it's all the natural bacteria on the leaves. So when that when that goes to making any fermented products, then it's already there. The flavour is in fermentation. It's not so much in the salt, or it's not so much in the spices that you use. The deeper flavour is the bacteria involved. So supplying a small company with the produce, and then they can sell their produce through us. We're just creating a much more circular economy, and we're trying to break down and not use this linear approach. So anything that we can do to be part of that it's really beneficial to everybody.
So I'm Mitch. I'm the owner of Kimchi.
I'm Connie, partner of Kimchi Business.
So we came down to see Billy at Stepney City Farm just to talk about his produce in terms of what we could use for our kimchi. We want to produce a real local product so people know where their food's coming from.
It's also right next to where we live, so I thought it would be a great place to source our veggies. It will reduce the carbon footprint that we add to sourcing all these different veggies that we add to the kimchi. So I thought we'll give it a try and see what we can get from here.
Yeah, for me it was about that partnership and education. So I think for us, knowing where our food comes from is really important, and I think for our customers, we want them to know where their food's coming from. So if we took our produce from Billy and use it in our product, I think that would just create a great culture.
Yeah.
Locally. Hopes, I think long term, is that we can get all of our produce from here. Every ingredient would come from here, maybe except for the Korean chilies that we have to use.
Or who knows, we may be able to grow it here and then dry it here. If that's possible, that would be even better.
The more we can get away from having to go to a supermarket to buy our ingredients, and one, support locally, and two, collaborate locally, is a win for both of us, I think.
Yeah. And hopefully we can do what we discussed is refill stations, the kimchi refill station, so that we can encourage our customers to move away from, I guess, plastic packaged kimchi from a supermarket, or even, if we can reduce the number of glass jars that we have to purchase, I think that will be the best way of doing what we're doing.
Another one of the collaborations that we've just started this year is a company, a startup called Mana, and they're interested in black soldier fly larvae.
My name's Larry Koch, and I've come to the farm because I'm setting up a project which will be black soldier fly farming. So what we'll be doing is using some of the waste from the farm and the cafe and other sources, and feeding that to the black soldier fly larvae, which is the sort of baby stage, I guess, or the first stage of the fly evolution, which will then eat all of this waste. And then before it has a chance to turn into a fly, it'll be harvested and fed to chickens, or the waste that they produce, which is basically like compost, for the rest of the farm. One of the great byproducts of doing black soldier fly farming is the flies obviously eat waste, any form of agricultural, either pre or post agricultural waste, but they themselves excrete, after eating all of this stuff that nobody wants, excrete a poo basically. And that is a very, very high grade fertilizer. It's actually comparable to some of the stuff you can buy. It's very nitrogen rich, very phosphate rich, and so that can be used as a very effective fertilizer in conjunction with other compost to help with the permaculture going on. We actually approached a number of farms, but then we actually met the guys here at Stepney City Farm, and they immediately shared the vision. They had already started talking about potentially doing it on a very small scale, and when we turned up, it was like, great, let's go to town on it. The main use of this project and the black soldier fly farming is the larvae. So you actually harvest the larvae when they're about this big, before they turn into a fly, and you can then feed them live to chickens. And there's actually quite a lot of chickens. You can also feed them to any monogastric animals like pigs. So there's quite a lot of chickens and pigs on this farm. So hopefully that's a nice bit of feed. So we're taking some of the waste that's produced around here, using it to produce animal feed, and then also this frass, which is a good compost.
That's what I want to do on the farm, is to create a system where we're not creating any waste, because if we mimic nature, nature doesn't have any waste. It doesn't exist in nature. So how come we're organizing ourselves and all we're doing is producing waste? So it's the same. We have, we try and keep all our cardboard to build the beds. We try to use no plastic. And if we can then be on board with, similar companies that are using just glass and they're reusing the glass and we're not having any packaging, those small practices can then, have an opportunity then to grow, and then they can become the mainstream. But if they're not given a chance, then them grassroots, they're just always, they're just never going to be able to compete with the system at the moment. My hope is that we can create a lot more permaculture workshops from here. We can just, get a lot more people involved and sort of not just do permaculture workshops, but try to just make sure people are more aware of where their food comes from, and just build more sort of community relationships with lots of other startups that are trying to make a difference. And if we can build connections through there, then we're more resilient as well. It's not just diversity in nature and the growing systems that's more resilient. If we are then more diverse as the way we arrange ourselves, then we are more resilient as well. Another thing that I want to do more is supply growing kits to local people that can then grow their own food rather than buying the produce from us. They can then, we can supply seedlings, we can supply seeds, we can supply the compost. People can grow on their balconies, people can grow on their windowsills, and even if it's a small amount, at least people are, thinking about, how much energy goes into growing something, and then it's, and then taste it and just see how much that tastes different, and see how much, you can just, make yourself feel healthier because you're actually growing it yourself, and then what goes into it, and it's healthy for your mental state and for your physical state. Places like Stepney City Farm I think they're really vital as a hub where people can come and see what's going on. You can have hands-on experience, you can volunteer, you can just come and be amongst nature and trees and just feel like you're connected by just listening. That's what I love about being here, is people are coming here and we're being able to work as a team and just solve the problems together, and it's a great thing to be a part of, really.